it's important to recognize when there are people surrounding you who can help you.
Yes.
And to allow that help to come in.
Yeah.
Do you feel that has been a big aspect of your ability
Absolutely.
to achieve, is recognizing those individuals that are mentors or who can provide that level of support and allowing that information to affect your life?
Absolutely. It was hard for me to ask for help because I always thought I had the answers.
Right.
But as I got older, I realized I don't have all the answers. There are folks that I know that are even younger than me that have something to add to me.
Yeah.
So it's definitely very important to recognize that you're not the end all be all.
Something about achieving is, closely related to what you're willing to do.
Yeah.
Especially people in your generation, when you know you need to do something to go to the next level, but you just don't want to. You don't like what you're hearing, what you thought it was going to take to go to the next level. You didn't know it was going to require you to do that. But then you see, if I want to get to that result, I got to do it. How do you overcome that?
That's a great question.
Yeah. Generations. Now, all of us fall in some generation, whether it's baby boomer or Generation X or millennials. But at the end of the day, in whatever generation you find yourself, you have to figure out how to be a high achiever if you want to get results that are beyond just the norm and the monotony of life. When you think about individuals born between 1997 and 2012, we have Generation Z, and this generation is, growing up with technology that we've never seen before. And today, I have the great distinct honor of talking to someone that I highly admire for their achieving spirit and how they've risen behind, above, I should say, obstacles to keep achieving even when they were the youngest person in the room. I would like to welcome Robert Grimess III. And I want to welcome you, Robert. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to be here. I'm excited, a little nervous, but I'm sure I'll settle down. But it's good to be here to have the honor to speak with you.
Yeah, well, just relax because you got what it takes to have this conversation. And I want you to know, Robert, you've been a young man. I've had the privilege of, having some mentorship in your life. And we'll talk on that a little bit. But before we kind of unpack you and your story and why you're here, let's talk about the reality of when you're trying to achieve and you're the youngest person in the room. What are some of the thoughts and feelings that you get when you look around the room and realize that everyone around you is much older, but you yet got to do your job?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think I have been in that position for most of my life because I was born later in the year, born in November. So when I started school, I was usually one of the younger ones in my entire grade. So having that translate over, the last 24, 25 years, I think a lot of the consistent feelings and things that you kind of deal with are imposter syndrome for sure. Especially as I've gotten older into more mature and corporate spaces that, for my job and whatnot, you kind of get a little bit of, do I really belong here? Do I really fit in? Despite, having put in all the years and all the work and all the learning to be in those situations. Not to say that you lack confidence in yourself, but it's almost like kind of a reality shock, how did I think I was 21 or 22 when I got to my current job. It's like, how did I end up here with folks that have been in this industry for 15, 20, 35 years? And, it was just a lot to deal with for that. But I'd say on top of the imposter syndrome as well, it's really just staying motivated and remembering what I've always told folks, because I also mentor folks that come and intern at Salesforce. And what I always tell them is to remember your reason why. Why are you here?
Right.
Why have you combated all the different struggles and obstacles that you've been met with on your journey to be in this position? So I think, having to consistently and constantly remind myself of that reason and to stay true to that too, and not let that be shaken or changed by what the company is doing, what even my peers are doing, even what folks in my family are doing, but making sure that I maintain the path that I know of why I'm doing this. So holding on to that is really important.
Yeah, I love that. So before we go back and unpack your story a little bit, let's talk a little bit about now, just for a second. Tell everyone what role you're in, because I want people to appreciate what you're doing right now. Now, I believe you're 24 years old, about to turn 25.
Yes.
You're in the prime of your life, some would say, but you're still considered a young man, right, with a lot of room to grow and accomplish so much. But tell everyone what you're doing right now and what you're responsible for.
So I currently work at Salesforce. I work in the Global Partnerships organization, and I've recently just transitioned into a new role, and this is a mouthful. I'm still learning it. So I believe it's Partner Automation, Strategy and Operations Senior Analyst.
Oh my gosh, say that 5 times.
Yeah. I'm not going to give it a try today. But so essentially what this role and what this team is focused on is we're going to be really focused on a lot of our automation and AI agent experience with our partners and our customers, and also internally as well. So just making sure that our products are, of course, getting the most attention and really meeting the needs of our customers and our partners. And then internally, just making sure that we're able to use those things effectively and productively to where we can optimize our productivity on the team. That's always been something that has been a part of my role. Even in my previous role, where I was kind of focused more so on go-to-market operations and co-sell with our partnerships. This AI and automation was always about 20% of my, day-to-day. So now diving into that full time, I don't really know exactly what I do yet. We just got the change a month ago, so I went on vacation a couple of weeks ago after just doing one project. So when I get back, I'll probably get fully ramped up. So I'm still learning all that, that entails. But, I'm really excited because it's, automation and AI and efficiency have always been pillars of how I like to operate in my work. So having a chance to really dive into that full time with folks that have been doing this for years is very exciting. A lot of chance to learn, a lot of chance to also bring fresh perspective and a new set of eyes to things. But really just getting a chance to learn about the history of automation in our business and across our teams and the industry as well. So
now when you think about Salesforce, which I've done business with them throughout my 25 years of being an entrepreneur, it's a very large organization that has accomplished a lot as a SaaS platform and much more. But this particular role, you mentioned that it was global. So what areas of the world and are you involved in dealing with, just getting that exposure to international thinking? Tell me a little bit about how far this reaches for the roles that you've kind of entered into.
Yes, it's really all over. Of course, we're here in North America, but also in Latin America, North, Central, Southern EMEA, which is Europe. And then we're in ANZ, Australia, Asia, really the entire world.
And you're touching this in the role you're in?
Yes, there are specific projects where I pretty much touch all 7 continents.
Wow. Wow. And I can't think of, being 24 years old and realizing that one day you would be touching 7 continents, right?
You and me both.
Absolutely.
At least not in this capacity.
Right, exactly. So let's take a step back and let's talk about Robert Grimess III for a minute, though. It's great what you've accomplished, but there's always a zero story behind a hero story. And people have to come through things. And tell us a little bit about where you're from. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you start out in life?
This is always an interesting, starting point, because I say I'm from California.
Okay.
I was born in Oakland.
I didn't know that.
Yes. I was at the Summit Medical Center down Alta Bates.
No way.
I was born there and lived in Berkeley for a few years. And then my grandfather, he took a job in Albany, Georgia for the Marine Corps. And my mom was still relatively young. She was about 20 when she had me, and she was pursuing her master's at the time. So the logical choice was to follow my grandparents to make life a little easier. So about 2 or 3 years old, I ended up moving to Albany, Georgia, small little town about 3 hours south of Atlanta.
Much different than California.
Much different from California. Very different. And so we were there, and I guess coming up, it was interesting having to, of course, I don't remember much of my life from being a baby and a toddler. But I do know growing up, like having transitioned from Albany, then my mother moving up to Atlanta after receiving her master's, it was definitely a bit of a transition, especially, having continuously come back and forth to California every summer. So I guess that's kind of where I'm from. So I'm from Oakland, but I am rooted and established in Atlanta, Georgia.
I got
That's
you.
where I spent the majority of the 17, 18 years of my life, graduating through high school.
Yeah.
And then I moved out here for college when I was 18, and I just recently moved back to Georgia. So I guess I can't stay away.
Well, let's back up a minute though. So you're growing up. Your mom got her master's. I didn't know she got her master's. So I've known
Public
your
administration.
mom. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
known your mom for a long period of time, and I know that no doubt some of those things were influencing your life too. Watching her achieve and
Yeah.
and make more of her life. But I know you also have been in kind of a big brother siblings type of role too.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, some of your siblings, and what role that has played in maybe teaching a little bit about responsibility.
Yeah, so I am the oldest of 6, I believe. I have
You have to remember, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta. Yeah, don't ask me about birthdays or ages because that's where it gets complicated.
Yeah.
But I have 2 younger sisters and I have 4 younger brothers, I think. Yes. And they range from my oldest, she's 22, ranging all the way down to my youngest brother. He just turned 7 in August. So, and my 2 oldest younger siblings, they both live in California from my biological father.
Okay.
And then I have the 4 siblings from my mother. So even navigating that, having two separate households that really lived, 2 separate lives and had different standards and ways of living. And spending the majority of my time with my mom, it was very difficult kind of trying to navigate that. But being the oldest at such an early age, definitely puts you in positions to have to make, right choices and smart choices and not have to think so much about yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's other things to consider. Of course, you're doing the babysitting and, just wanting to be part of their lives also, just spending time with them and trying to teach them what I learned growing up. So.
Yeah. And I want to talk about that a little bit because I think, this is where I can relate to you a lot too, just with my parents kind of going different ways when I was real young, having, I don't know, 3 or 4 different step parents, and going to different households and things of that sort. When you think about business and dealing with change and relationships and navigating different personalities, I think people like you and I develop a set of skills that we didn't intend to develop. But when you have to deal with different households and dynamics and you different over here and different over there, and it does cause you to handle situations differently.
Yeah.
Do you think that the dynamics of your life with the siblings and the 2 parents and there's in 2 different environments, do you feel that it in the end maybe taught you a little bit about how to deal with different dynamics?
Oh, absolutely. I think especially being in that situation in particular with the differing environments and just flows of life, I think I learned early on how to just see the real in every situation because of those different environments, having to just continually flip back and forth. But then also, you also learn how to slow down. Because there's usually a lot happening, especially with my 4 younger siblings. They are balls of energy and always trying to do something, getting into some kind of trouble. So I think also just learning how to take a step back and really assess every situation, what's happening from every variable, right? You know, you have different personalities in that house. So being in business and different dynamics and situations, you really learn how to settle down to be able to make the right decision. And kind of develop a path ahead, because being an older brother and having younger siblings, you kind of have to be a few steps ahead of them to see what they're going to do next, or how this might impact them, or how my decision or how I act might impact them down the line. So seeing the real, settling down, and then making a decision where having some foresight comes into play, I think are all critical things that I learned from being in that environment in those situations.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate you sharing that. And so now you're growing. You're going through different dynamics. You're learning more about responsibility. I happen to also know that you're a musician, and I love music as well. Always trying to grow on a few instruments and things. And I think, I know you can learn so much from anything. Like to me, music is very spiritual. It's one of the few things that can like reach the soul. That's why so many people, they don't even know why they like it. And it can be for good or evil. Like depending on the content of the music, it can affect and shape the way you think. But tell me about how you got involved with music, because you know, it will stimulate the brain in terms of intelligence and the ability to learn. Someone getting involved in that early can have an effect. So how'd you get involved with music?
So growing up, I think I was about 3 years old, I loved the Power Rangers. Power Rangers, Star Wars, but Power Rangers were my favorite. I was really into martial arts at that time.
Okay, yeah.
So I remember I had just like came in outside from my grandfather's house with some sticks. Power Ranger show came on, the theme song was going, and I just get to tapping with the sticks from outside. And my grandpa's like, he's got some like natural rhythm. So my grandfather went out, bought me a drum set, brought it back to the house, and I just put everything together myself, you know, just sat at the kit, figured out how to play with the kick and the hi-hat.
Did you have one of them little toy drum sets? Or like
I had a toy one at first, and then when they found out like, oh, he can do this, they went on and bought one. So I think when I was 4, I started playing in the church with their band, and you know, through the years, of course, did school and whatnot. But I started taking it seriously when I turned about 14. That's when I got my first professional gig as a drummer. And my mom made me take piano. I did not like that. I regret it now, though.
No,
I wish I stuck
now.
with
Don't
it.
talk about the piano bad, though. Now I like.
I love the keys. I wish I had stuck with it. But yeah, 14, I got my first gig. I played for a local jazz band. I had a gig there, and I also had met my one of my most influential mentors, Tim Johnson. I call him Sensei. And he just took all the things that I've learned through school, you know, music theory, and he just kind of unlocked, I guess, all of my ability. You know, I knew growing up when I was doing school and whatnot, I had a natural ability and gift to really understand music holistically. I could pick it apart, put it together. But Sensei just came and I don't even know how to explain what he did. But through that, I got into music production. Didn't like that as much, and got a chance to meet some folks that he went to college with, and Sonny Emery and Tom Knight, who were drummers that I got the chance to learn from. And after that, I remember going to a studio session with Sonny, and I went just to kind of learn some vocal stuff from behind the scenes, and I ended up just getting behind the board one day, and the artist that we were working with came in, and she was like, that was great.
So you did some mixing, like studio mixing?
So yes, really at the time, the artist was having an issue with getting the vocal just how she wanted it. So I went in there when everybody left, and I started mixing on the board a little bit. And just to kind of get a cleaner sound, with some warmth in there. And she came in from using the bathroom, nobody else. She liked what she heard and hired me on. So that's why I got started in vocal producing, which is what I ended up doing for the majority of my music career.
Wow. So I knew about the drums. I didn't know you was kind of getting into the vocal part of helping to get things sounding right, knowing how to do mixing, you know, rendering and things of that sort. That is really awesome. And so I know that now you could have went down a path, right, with music and trying to go deeper. And the music industry, it's accomplished some of the things that have touched so many lives in terms of music, but it's also definitely destroyed a lot of people as well. You know, how did you end up getting away from music and starting to go more toward a different route in education or in your career?
Well, I think, you know, having been involved with music so professionally so early on, being there, really working the longer hours, being in all kinds of environments that really did not align with my upbringing and my household standards. You know, my parents did a really good job of maintaining the standard in the home of what their expectations were and what they would and would not allow me to do. Now, granted, of course, there were things that I did that they did not know about.
They didn't know,
of course. But over time, you know, knowing ultimately what was right and what really aligned with my life and what I wanted to do. And then also, I'm a Christian, I'm a spiritual person. So, you know, I also started to feel the point where this was starting to become bigger than my relationship with God. And that was becoming an issue for me and was sitting heavy on my heart. And over time, that compacted with just no longer feeling happy about what I was doing anymore. Just like, really like, is there all this is to music? Like growing up, listening to Stevie, Alicia, all my favorites back then. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is great. Like,
Yeah.
this is, y'all have to live a great life.
Right.
And then I got in it, and I'm like, we're in the studio 48, 72 hours at a time. Like, this is not a life.
Right.
This is not living. And then on top of that, more than anything, the most important thing being my relationship with God, like it was getting in the way.
Yeah.
And I feel like I wasn't getting the most out of that relationship. And I had grew up in the church my whole life, so I knew what was right.
Yeah.
And once I finally decided like that was going to be the center of my life and make that the epicenter, that's when I was like, I have to be done with this.
Wow, I appreciate you sharing, because that is, I know a lot of young people struggle to find their values. Like, what do you value? What do you live for? What's important to you? And to be able to distinguish at a young age that there was a distinction between the environment you were in the music industry, and the environment that was conducive to who you told yourself you wanted to become. You know, you wanted to live the life of a Christian. You were concerned about your values, your integrity, your character. And unfortunately, I see a lot of churches today that have combined the music industry into the church, and has lost that line of separation. Right. It's really interesting, you know, when you see that, because it seems like that when we lose our distinction in being able to distinguish between two different worlds, those worlds become one that weren't intended. Do you notice that as well?
Yeah, I mean, especially because I was playing in churches too. I was filling in for friends of mine and whatnot, and it's really like it's a show. And having played in shows and arranged them and all, the focus no longer became about God, but it's became how can I make money, right? And so it started turning into vanity, and I'm like, this is not. And at the time, I was just doing it just to get a check. Growing up, but after it got to the point where I'm like, you guys, there is nothing you're doing here that is glorifying what we're here to do.
Right.
Like, there's nothing about playing this music, and like it's getting to a point like they're mixing rap songs, having rappers come in, and I'm talking about rappers that be rapping about some crazy stuff that no child should be hearing.
Right.
So starting to mix those worlds, it's that is also kind of what pushed me to the edge of like, this is. Y'all say we here for one reason, but at the end of the day, y'all just trying to get a check too. So I couldn't be a part of that. So you definitely have experienced it, even more so definitely seen it now after COVID, especially, you know, production has really increased in that really it is an industry of its own. So everybody's kind of doing all crazy stuff. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the things with some of these mega churches doing crazy, it's like throwing syrup on the Bible. It's crazy.
It's almost unbelievable.
It is.
It is. But let's think of, when you think about music and some of the good and the bad, and you think about business and starting to, as we start moving, getting closer to you starting to move into your career, when I think about, let's take drumming. So you got the kick, you got the toms, you got the crashes, and all these different elements of a drum set, and all of them play a role. But the key thing about the drums is to keep the timing, right? And so, how has drumming and all of its nuances taught you more about life and maybe about business? Because even business is about doing things at the right time. It's knowing what sound is needed for this moment, knowing what the customer, is trying to communicate, just like a song does. What's the melody? Like, get parabolic here with me a little bit. Like, what do you think about when you think about what the drums can teach you about life and business and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head, right? The main job of a drummer is to keep the tempo. And I think I've always practiced with a click, with a metronome, 1, 2, 3, 4. But also, I think there's also something that's also important to include in that is it's got to feel good. Like, you want to lock into the tempo, but why I really love drumming and why I honestly kept getting callbacks is not because I had chops and could play all the fast stuff, but I could keep the tempo and I could make people dance. So how that translates to business for me is, one, especially in operations, you want to have a consistent flow of productivity. You don't want to be too long or not spend enough time on things where you're just kind of pushing things out, but you want to be very consistent and even keeled to have something where you're getting in a really good flow and a rhythm to where you can consistently flesh out good material, but also not really get caught behind. And with that, and going back to what I mentioned about you want it to feel good, is you want a good product. You want the product to work. You want people when they're using it to feel like they're being efficient, because really my kind of focus in operations was to make people's lives easier. So in a sense, really, they shouldn't have to come back to me once the product is great. So once I put it out there, if I don't hear anything back, to me, that's a good sign.
Exactly.
So, having a good temperance and balance of the workload and projects you're balancing as well, which also goes into, the drumming. There's certain times where you might not want to be too heavy on the kick or too heavy on the snare. You gotta adjust based on where the music is at that point. So keeping things even and balanced on top of still, even with that, having to make the adjustments, making it still feel good.
Yeah.
That's really important in business as well, because you want people to be able to use I say feel, and the wording is a little difficult, I guess, for me to sum up at the time, but you just want the product to really do its job, and to where it's like you're no longer noticing that it's there.
Yeah, you're creating an experience.
Exactly, an experience, right?
Yeah.
Which is now what a lot of folks are doing with all these agents and whatnot. Like, folks are really trying to eliminate the need to have to focus on what they're doing, which is, I don't necessarily like that, because also as a drummer, you don't want to get lost in it as well. You got to stay focused, pay attention to the keys, the guitar, all of that.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I'd probably say to that.
I love it. I really love it. I appreciate you for jumping into that, because I like looking at things from different angles. And I have a surprise for you, but I just need you to say yes to it. Can you just agree to it without me telling you what it is?
I don't know if I can do that.
Okay. Well, listen, I've got a studio on site. Here we're at our whole headquarters here in California, and I'm glad you came here in person. And maybe before the show is over, if you're up to it, we could just go in there and have a little fun. Just I'll mess around on the keys, you mess around on the drum. Nothing fancy, nothing.
I'm retired, right?
I understand that. And I know you probably just been dealing with all the global needs of Salesforce. But we could just have a little fun and kind of close out. Maybe we could step over there before we go. Would you be willing to?
I could do that for you.
Okay, I got a yes. So we might have a surprise then before this show is over. That'll be great. So let's do this. I want to bring it over to your education. So now we leave music. You realize that you need to go, and I think this is really important, especially for Generation Z that has so much technology they've grown up with. There's so much talent and potential. And yet there's so much distraction.
Yeah.
There's so much noise. There's so much social media. There's so much video games and so many things to pull on you. And when you think about that and trying to find a distinct focus, right, before we can even achieve, we have to decide what path we want to travel. How you entered in towards finding your path and starting to move into where you wanted to go education-wise.
Yeah, I definitely had an untraditional route when it comes to education post graduating high school, because of course, when I decided to leave music, I withdrew all of my college applications from a lot of the schools, and well, actually not all of them, and ended up reapplying. But when I reapplied, I had lost scholarship offers to go and do stuff for music and all of that.
So all your scholarships was based on the thing that
I
didn't want to go into.
Yeah, and that was fine with me. I was like, okay, I'm gonna figure it out. And ultimately, again, my reason for doing this was to increase my relationship with God. And so I just really moved out on faith. And I had a few friends out here in California, that I went to church with and my family grew up in. So I came and visited one summer, and I told them my situation, like, hey, I'm no longer doing X, Y, and Z, and I need help.
Yeah.
So I ended up connecting with a good friend of mine. His name is Zach Randall.
Yeah.
He lives down in Baton Rouge now.
Yeah, I know Zach, yeah.
Yeah, and he told me about Diablo Valley College, or right down the street.
Yeah.
And I applied there. Of course, got accepted to. It's a junior college, and I think it's also. I want to throw this out there too. Like, there's plenty of routes that you can take to get an education, right?
Yeah.
And especially being for me, I wasn't entirely sure exactly what I was going to do or study. But when I got to DVC, I think I remember also when I moved out here, I had sat down with your wife, Mrs. Maya Parker, and known her for some time, and I told her, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, what's gonna go from here, and that's when she kind of directed me, well, maybe business might be good, because in school I did a lot of things that would develop skills for that. I did debate and different IT classes and whatnot, so I ended up just kind of choosing that route. And
so wait a minute, she was involved in kind of steering you towards business?
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't know this.
Absolutely.
Now, see, I know my wife has played a strong role in your life. Like, she would even come home, tell me sometimes she was talking to you, and you would come to her about things, and she's been a big part as a mentor and guide to you as well. But I did not know that she kind of was whispering in your ear and kind of going toward business, which I love.
Yeah.
But I didn't know she played a role in that.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna try not to get emotional, but she was really influential in me getting to where I am today. Even to this day, I still call her and ask her different questions or send her a text just to get her opinions on something before I move into doing it. But yeah, I would be here. I don't think you see me a few times, but after school, I would come over here almost every day just to do homework in the war room. And Miss Bella would always let me in and give me some water or some kind of candy or something, let me in there. But at least once or twice a week, I would spend a few hours with Maya and sit down. And at that time, I was also trying to build a business, students or masters back in the day. And that's where she really started teaching me how to move and operate and maneuver in the business realm, how to think, when to do and when not to do things. But yeah, she definitely pushed me to that. She really helped me put everything together as far as what my skills were, what my interests were, and how those could meet, while also not compromising, again, the main reason why I withdrew from music, which is my relationship with God. So she helped me to identify how to have a balance and which steps to take to get there and still be successful.
But I would say then, to a lot that will hear this, especially a lot of the youth, it's important to recognize when there are people surrounding you who can help you. And to allow that help to come in. Do you feel that has been a big aspect of your ability to achieve, is recognizing those individuals that are mentors or who can provide that level of support and allowing that information to affect your life?
Absolutely. And I would say it was even hard for me to do that. Growing up, being put in so many different situations and programs and events and whatnot, my grandmother and my mother really put me in a lot growing up. So it was hard for me to ask for help because I always thought I had the answers. Being the youngest in the room, my folks knowing that equipped me to not be lacking in anything. So generally, I would always think I was the smartest one in the room. But as I got older, I realized I don't have all the answers. There are folks that I know that are even younger than me that have something to add to me. So it's definitely very important to recognize that you're not you're not the end all be all. Like, the world you live in does not just revolve around you, but there are folks that can come in and support and just say the smallest things, a few words, just to switch your whole perspective. And even that can really alter a career, a life, and whatnot. So it's definitely important to be able to recognize who is around you that can add value to you, but also in that same notion, who around you cannot, and who you should maybe reassess the level of relationship you have with them to an extent as far as time and investment and whatnot. So it's definitely an important thing.
So before we fast forward how you went from here to Salesforce, what do you think in terms of some of the things that hold people back, especially our youth, but just people in general, when you get some information, it's a little hard to hear, but it's right. And now you have a choice of if you're going to implement it or not, if you're going to do it. Something about achieving is, closely related to what you're willing to do. And I love the slogan of how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So what do you say, how do people rise above those thoughts, especially people in your generation, to when you need to do something to go to the next level, but you just don't want to. You don't like what you're hearing, what you thought it was going to take to go to the next level. You didn't know it was going to require you to do that. But then you see, if I want to get to that result, I got to do it. How do you overcome that?
That's a great question. Man, my initial thoughts are that I have been in that situation. Specifically, even with your wife. She has mentioned some things that I was like, I am not going to do that, which I'll save that for, how we got to Salesforce, because that's really when that came up. But I would say, especially growing up as kids, of course, there are a lot of things you hear from your parents, like, do this, go do that. And you're like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, what's the point? Even if that's your mom, your dad, you have to listen to them at some point. But it's just I think one thing it is fear, for sure. Especially for me, I am no longer what I would call a control freak, but because of my upbringing and how I was, generally I was able to control a lot of the situations I was in, the rooms I was in, even the folks that were, having emotional intelligence to be able to maneuver situations to kind of get an expected outcome that I was looking for.
Right.
So not knowing what was going to happen next or what may come of taking that step of, even though it's the right thing to do, because you may not have the foresight to see down the line, like those who are giving that advice or telling you what you need to do may have. It's scary, right? And it's like almost like going on a hike and you're looking up this. There's Stone Mountain in Georgia. The thing is tall, it's huge,
Right.
and it's a steep incline as well. So you see that, and at the top, it's that feeling of, man, I did this, I accomplished it, I can stamp my foot on it. But you see just the journey it takes to get there. And then also, even though you may be able to have an idea of what might be at the top, you really don't know until you get there. So there's definitely a fear of the unknown, as well as just being self-willed and self-determined. There's things that, I think just as humans just have this thing where we go into self-protection, want to do our own thing because we think that we know what's better for us because don't nobody know us better than we know ourselves, right?
Right.
That's the furthest thing from the truth. I think you have a lot of folks that really do know you very well, and even if they don't know you well, have enough experience to be able to recognize themselves in you so they can give you advice to be able to identify, like, hey, I've been down this road, maybe you should do X, Y, and Z. It's like, man, you don't even know me. How did you tell me that?
Right.
You being young, of course, there's the general, now that I'm, getting older, I fully understand and even apologize with my mom with the whole, you think you know everything, which is totally not the truth. So there's that as well, thinking that, we're younger because we're more maybe well-able physically or even doing all these things with our education, taking a whole bunch of classes or being in STEM programs, we're the smartest folks in the bunch. But in reality, you can be smart, but smart does not amount to intelligence or wisdom.
Right.
Which folks that have lived longer life experience, they have that.
Right.
So I think it's hard to digest what you, one, don't understand because you don't have the intelligence or the wisdom that those that are, older than you have. And then you couple that with the fear, I can totally understand because I was there, how it's so hard to just do something even when you know it's the right thing to do. It is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Wow. I love the way that you just unpacked that whole thing. You really said a mouthful. And so, I mean, you definitely have climbed your stone mountain though to a certain extent, and there's some more stone mountains to climb, right? But when you think about going from your education to Salesforce, how did that happen? So now you got the tools, you got some advice, you got some different things, but now how did it end up that now you transition to a company like Salesforce?
Yes, so I think going into my second year at DVC, there was this program called the Year Up program that they're partnered with at DVC. So they were there locally on campus, and they came into one of my intro to business courses and of course, gave their pitch, like, this is who we are, this is what we do. And it's a year-long program. You do 6 months of L&D, which is learning and development, and then you're guaranteed a 6-month internship at a tech company. And they have, different program tracks for like quality assurance, project management, data analytics. And I'm like, I don't need that, because it kind of seemed like the program was designed for those that are less opportunity prone, right? And given my background and experience, I did not want to take that position from someone who may have needed it more.
Right.
So when I came and I brought it to Maya, I'm like, hey, like, they keep coming to me specifically about this program. And she was like, you need to do it. And I also had a few friends, and Nikita Lee, Zach, I think, did it. Also, Julian de Guzman is a good friend of mine. He did the program. So I called them. I'm like, hey, what do you guys think about this?
Yeah.
They're like, you should do it. So I said, all right. Well, I went back to her and I talked to her some more. I'm like, I don't really feel good about this. But going back to what we just talked about, I'm just going to trust you.
Right.
And I'm just going to do it. So she wrote my recommendation. And generally, there's about 3 levels of interviews that happen to get into that program. Just from reading her recommendation alone, I was able to kind of skip through all those programs, which I truly believe was not just something that was done because of her recommendation, but I really do think that was the Lord also assisting as well, and honoring my diligence of just trying to do the right thing and fulfill the promise that I made to him as well.
Yeah.
So I got to that program, and it was just seamless. I mean, every point of the way from Europe to even getting to Salesforce was seamless. But I had a professor in one of the classes for that program, Professor Tran. I'll never forget her, one of my favorites. And we had to do this project where we had to kind of give a presentation on the mission of a company, what they do, all that good stuff. And my team, we got Salesforce. So I'm researching it, looking it up, and I'm like, man, this company seems great. And I found out that they were partnered with Europe. So, you know, they placed interns there. So I told the program manager, hey, I want to go here. That didn't work. They were like, you know, we place you based on how you perform in the program. Lo and behold, I ended up getting placed in the Salesforce after doing a lot of the work, working really hard. At that time, I was placed on the CBO marketing team, which is the Chief Business Office, and working in strategic partnerships on a global scale.
Okay.
And 3 months into that 6-month internship, my manager came to me. He was like, we want to bring you on full-time, on a full-time role at this level. And I was like, okay, great. What's the next step? So like, just sign the contract. You don't need an interview or anything like that. We don't need your resume.
Wow.
You don't have to. In fact, we will let you create your job description. So they let me generate my day-to-day, my stretch projects, all of that. So the entire time I've been here, I have just hand designed each role that I've had being on this team. So that's how I got there. And of course, there's a lot of ebbs and flows within that.
Yeah. But what is so powerful about that is I was in a similar situation, but I was in, I think I was at my 4-year college, and Toyota sent someone to the college, same type of thing, to come on some sort of intern thing. And I bring that up to say, you know, not only for youth, but for everybody, the recognition of opportunity is so important, right? And you almost missed that opportunity, right? Which is now, you know, providing for you, providing for your family, is built a resume that's going to be able to, you know, journey with you with whatever your career holds. Right. Those are some things that are highly valuable to say you have done, but it was because you recognized the opportunity. And so the recognition of opportunity seems like in the journey of high achievement, one of the most critical things. Even after you get a job, you got to recognize opportunities within the job to grow.
Absolutely.
Because if not, you'll stay how you are.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great point you bring up too, because even after that, you know, after that initial like being hesitancy of wanting to take the opportunity to go to Europe and just trusting and all those that I talked to, seeing how that worked out in the first, you know, month or so of my internship, from then on, I decided any opportunity that comes, I'm no longer going to just shy away from or say I'm not going to do it because I'm scared or whatever the reason is. So there was a lot of opportunities for me to work across different teams, meeting all kinds of different folks, even coming in contact with, I think after I joined, Corey Haynes, who I know you also know, he joined Salesforce, and he is a titan of the financial services industry. He came in as a VP there, and there was an opportunity to work on his team, but not moving too fast, it didn't really match up with what I was looking to do, so I utilized this offer to get a better offer on my job. But it's important to be able to recognize, one, that opportunities don't always come in a present that's gift wrapped with a bow. It's not always going to be some shiny object. Some opportunities are going to require you to, I don't want to use the word suffer, but to really struggle as far as learning a new skill or, you know, just trying to, maybe it's a soft skill, a hard skill, something more technical. But there's some opportunities really are going to make you uncomfortable. But I think every opportunity that comes along that makes you uncomfortable should push you to grow as well. I've never been in a situation where an opportunity that's made me uncomfortable or even made me question if I had the skills to be able to do it. I've never seen myself not profit from that opportunity.
Wow. So let's go into this now. So now we take advantage of opportunity. We grow within those opportunities. But at the end of the day, you can't change whatever your situation is, how you look, your age, where you're from, whatever those things are that our mind tries to tell us is the reason we can't or we won't. But the reality is many times you were the young person in the room, right? And what were some of the things can you share with me some of the things that you have felt and dealt with as a result of realizing like, hey, I'm advancing here, but I'm realizing there's a few people in this room that may not appreciate my age for the responsibility I have.
And I would say I was fortunate enough to be on a team that really received me very well. Like when I came on the team, they really put me in positions to excel and to learn and to grow. But of course, in certain jobs, there's a lot of cross collaboration that comes up. So when I was in those situations where I'm bringing in a project to which, I'm the subject matter expert on, I've definitely felt like, what does this kid know? Like, not even in exact words, they may not have said that, but the how I was received or how much combativeness I was given on a project that really it's like, hey, like I really have the final say here on what happens and I'm designing it. I'm just bringing this to you because your team can benefit and I want to collaborate. There's a lot of times where I've been met with opposition and I knew it was not because I didn't know what I was talking about because I had the metrics, I had the data, I had everything to back up what I was saying.
Right.
But I knew it was just because, he doesn't even have a college degree yet.
Right.
Because he's young, he hasn't been doing this this is his first job in this industry.
Yeah.
Like what does he know?
Right.
So I've definitely felt that. I've met that. And then I've also been met with, of course, some racial discrimination as well.
Sure.
But ultimately, what I tell people that I mentor that get into these positions is none of that really matters. How people make you feel, even our emotions to an extent aren't really real. They're real to us in that moment, but in the long run, they don't really mean anything.
Right.
So when we're in these positions, I try to tell folks like who you are, where you come from, not that it doesn't matter, but all you need to know in that moment is that you are in the same space. These folks that have more experience, that doesn't mean anything as much either. All that you have, or what does that say? Time doesn't matter. You have all the talent, or no, what experience doesn't matter because that does not equate to them having more potential or more talent.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
And that's not to say you want to avoid that or seek out experienced individuals, but you don't want to let that become something that hangs over your head to stop you from moving and growing.
Yeah.
So you really want to focus on, hey, I'm in this space. I made it here, not just off, one thing or who I know or I did one great thing, but no, I've put in the work, I've put in the hours, I've studied really hard to be here, so I deserve to be in these rooms.
Yeah.
Especially, when I'm coming to things prepared, knowing what I'm talking about and walking away feeling confident. There shouldn't be anyone else in the world that can come and try to knock you off your block.
Yeah.
Saying you're too young or you don't know enough. And then in the sense, if you didn't, you wouldn't be there.
Right.
Salesforce is not a company that's just going to hire someone willy-nilly or offer them a full-time job 3 months into an internship just cause. So that's how I walk into those rooms, knowing like, no, I deserve to be here because I've put in the work. And I know my numbers, I know my data, I know my products. So whether you agree with it or not, because I'm young, really doesn't matter to me. So we just keep it pushing.
So basically the value and the results that you bring can overcome the limitations that people try to put on you.
Yeah.
Right. And so I want to do something, with the remaining time we have, I want to pull up my whiteboard and I want to ask you, like, if you're talking to some people out there that want to be high achievers, what are some things that you think they have to have in mind in terms of skills, abilities, work they need to be willing to do? What are some things we can tell them? I'm gonna build a list. I'm gonna just let you kind of unpack this. I'm gonna jot it down. But what are some advice you would give them? It doesn't have to be in any order. We got people maybe in your generation and maybe beyond, and they want to be the high achiever when they feel like they're the one in the room that maybe stands out or they have some limitation they're putting on themselves.
Yeah.
What is it that let's take that and say, we're gonna put limitation aside and think more about leverage.
Okay.
What things can I do that gives me more leverage so that I can stand on my own abilities and talents, and like you said, the work I've put in?
Yeah. I think number one, honestly, is the ability to commit. And that's going to be not just to yourself, to the work you're doing, but also committing to learn in its true essence. And when I say commit, I mean really put your feet in, dig in, and do the work. Because you have to be able to have that ability to commit to something wholeheartedly, because that is what's going to keep you grounded, I believe, and being able to grow in certain skills, abilities, even on teams. And that's also rewarded, right? A lot of the work that or even success that I've achieved here, some of the things that I've achieved have purely been because of my commitment and what my team has seen. So I'd say that for sure. I would definitely say having a curious mind is another one. Always ask questions, I think, and it's something that's broadcasted and spoken a lot, but I don't feel like it's something that's actually implemented.
Right.
I'm asking questions all the time, even to this day, on things that I'm considered an expert on. I'm asking folks that know more, what am I missing? What can
Right.
I add to this? So being curious is another one.
So I want to make sure they can see that on the whiteboard, having a curious mind.
Curious
so
mind, yeah.
you're saying when people are curious, it's going to open up doors just
Yeah.
by them. It allows these doors to open.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't know what happens. I think from asking one question, that could lead me to one team.
Right.
That team can lead me to another team and another and another. And at that point, I've already built this whole gigantic internal network for all kinds of different problems or solutions that I may need. And I can learn from every single one of these people.
Yeah, yeah.
So you just never know what can happen from one question. That one
Yeah.
question, I think I asked one question to an SVP one time. And from that one question, he assigned me to this whole new project that really allowed me to get my first promotion.
Wow.
So you just really
From
never
one
know.
question,
One
yeah.
question. And the question was something along the lines of, really not that he was even that deep, but I was just challenging his thinking, like
Yeah.
on a particular product. Like, well, if we do this, then how is that going to impact customers on a global level that may not have the same access to currency or whatever?
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I'm managing a whole project that got me my promotion to senior analyst. So
Wow.
you just
Wow.
never know what asking the right question
Yeah.
can get you into. So don't be afraid.
I love it. So we talked about commitment. We talked about curiosity.
Yeah.
Give me some more.
I think also, I don't want to be specific to my industry or field, but I think being able to analyze and interpret data on whatever that industry is, right? Whether you're in business, whether you're in sales or marketing, even in different industries like fashion and whatnot, being able to analyze the data that you're receiving from whatever it is that you're putting out, interpret it, develop an understanding of why is what I'm putting out or what I'm doing, bringing in these numbers, and understand what value that's doing across different groups of people or businesses. So taking that data and analyzing it, interpreting it, and then being able to tell a story. Storytelling, I think, is an underappreciated and under-marketed attribute and skill to be able to have. Because if you can tell a
100%.
story, then you can move really heaven and earth with a good story, really.
Yeah. And when you think about data, so the thing about data and numbers is it's objective.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't matter about someone's age, what they look like.
Right.
If you can correlate what you're communicating to numbers and make it objective, there's not much people can say.
Yes.
Right. So what you're saying here is, what I believe you're saying is that the better you can associate your work or the things that you're responsible for with real numbers and interpret that data, you take yourself out of the limitations people try to put you in, and you create a situation in which they've got to deal with ones and zeros, and you can't get around it.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, you leave no room for, there's no gaps in what you bring to them at that point. Because once you bridge the gap between the data and then real life experiences, what are you left with? At this point, it doesn't matter that I'm young or maybe not as experienced. Like, you have the data, and I've told you how this data got here through storytelling of, I could take a focus group of people of a certain ethnicity or background or job field, and I can tell you exactly how X, Y, and Z product allowed them to feel these different things, right? So being able to, and that's when data becomes real. It's no longer just a number, but now it's a story, like what I was mentioning. So when you can be able to kind of pull on the emotional strings a little bit, so you tie the numbers, you give it a depth, and you give it meaning, then what else do you have to do with that besides action on it? Because now you can't take what I'm giving you and say, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about because he's too young, when I just gave you this whole story of exactly how we got the data, how our product did X, Y, and Z, and now how that data is feeding back into us and what we need to do next to either make it better or make some adjustments. You can't not action on that.
And even people who are trying to, in this time period, they're looking for jobs, they want to get better jobs, they want promotions. The better that they can explain how their skill set will impact the numbers of an organization, will impact the data, or make them faster, better, leaner, grow in a numeric way, they're going to have a much better opportunity for getting hired or promoted than the one just says, I'm good at what I do, or I have a degree,
Yes.
So what if you can't tell me a story that
Exactly.
is based on real numbers? So you
Yeah.
agree this is very critical in the jobs people end up getting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I was even going to go into being able to identifying your skill set and how that translates
That's
to
good.
the needs of the business, needs of the team. Because not that I'm encouraging anyone to kind of get into a particular field and then silo yourself to one specific skill. But for me personally, like I have really taken on being the guy that can come and identify a problem and then solve it. Like that is what I can do. So when I'm taking on projects or even pitching myself for a promotion, that's what I'm telling you, I can have data access, because of my nature of my job and whatnot. So I can kind of get a look at and identify the trends and whatnot to tell you how I can come in and solve these problems. But identifying a skill set is very important because you need to be able to know what you're bringing to the table. Because if you don't know, odds are nobody else is either.
Yeah.
So if you can identify exactly the value that you bring to a team or to a business, it's going to be very hard to put yourself, or for anyone for that matter, to put you in a position to really succeed and grow in any environment that you want to be in.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got 5 here from you. I
Yeah.
want to squeeze 2 more out of you because
2 more.
7 is a complete number.
Okay.
What do you have anything else? What else could we add to this list?
I definitely would say, I don't know if this is necessarily a skill, but I think having a mentor is important.
That's good,
And not just one. I have probably 5 or 6, and they are very specific. So I think having a mentor with intention is what I would say is important. You want to be able to have folks that can help you build your soft skills, help you be able to build your storytelling ability, but then also, these are folks that you should be able to trust to be real with you and be honest with you. And I would say they should know you well. So it's getting very important of building a relationship with these mentors. And what they can do is provide you a perspective outside looking in, right? And that's going to come from them knowing a good deal about you, what you do, and then them learning their experience and their background on top of that. So I think having a mentor really has a chance to ground you and to be able to help you recognize where you may be going a little too fast and whatnot.
Yeah, and it's one thing to recognize that someone, came into your life and is a good mentor.
Yes.
And it's another thing to be looking for it.
Yeah, you got to search them out.
If you're actually searching and looking for it, not only will you recognize it when it happens, you'll be looking for ways to make it happen, that you realize it's a necessity for my growth.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of jump in on this, and I think I want to bring in number 7.
Okay.
And,
okay.
and you can expound on this a little bit,
Yeah.
but I think this is important, and you actually do this very well, and it's very critical that I talk to a lot of leaders, entrepreneurs, professionals about, and that is communication. Your communication is going to lead to compensation. People don't buy what you sell, they buy what you say.
Yes.
Your words create things. It puts thoughts in people's minds about you, about themselves, about the world.
Yeah.
And so if you can communicate well, it will always make you seem 10 times larger than you are because of your choice of words.
Absolutely.
This is the difference between things that have lasted forever in terms of, you mentioned storytelling and all of that,
Right.
because of someone's communication skill.
Yeah.
So say a little bit about how communication has helped you to advance as a high achiever.
I mean, honestly, I've learned a lot of my communication abilities from you, honestly.
Thank you.
From what I've learned from you, our CEO, and a lot of the things that you learn from learning about yourself, learning how to communicate in different environments and whatnot. But also my uncle, Maurice Johnson, as well, an excellent communicator. He's very great at observing situations and then knowing when and when not to say things. So communication, I think, boils down to not just being able to, say words, but it's also a matter of also utilizing some wisdom as well.
Yeah.
Being able to come into an environment, realize who's in the room, who does what, who goes where, and all a myriad of things depending on what situation you're in. So there's being able to analyze that situation, and then 2, from there, you kind of start to develop an idea of, all right, how do I fit into the situation, and what do I need to say to either get something done or to ask a question, to raise a solution, whatever that is. You have to start trying to develop the path to get there. And for me, I like to always identify the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
Depending on the situation. Now, there might be a time where I need to come in and say, hey, this is a problem. I'm going to say something about it.
Yeah.
So identify who's in the room, what room you're in, and then from there you identify the path to communicate what you're going to say. And then 2, it's just be confident in what you do.
Yeah.
You know, if you take the path to really think about what you're going to say before you're going to say it, which is something I have struggled with for the longest time. You can ask my mom. When you do that, you can say and speak with a certain clarity because there is no confusion in what you're saying, and there is no confusion in communication.
Yeah.
So when you bring clarity to a situation, again, like we were mentioning with having to combat different obstacles and whatnot from being young, you eliminate any kind of limitation there is because you're bringing clarity there. So if you can be clear, you can speak clear and leave no room for doubt. Now, not to say that there won't be questions, but if you can at least articulate the thoughts that you have based on what you've analyzed about who you're in the room with, and then identifying the path to getting what you want out of that situation, then you can really communicate with anybody. And then I think with that, the last thing I'll say is advocacy as well. I think I do not see a lot of folks advocate for themselves or for the positions that they want to be in. So when it comes to promotions and even trying to get established in a career or even building a network with mentors, being able to advocate like, hey, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to be in, and be okay with knowing that you're asking for help. I think is very important. You know, you don't want to be able to miss out on an opportunity because you were afraid to tell people what you're looking for out of that opportunity.
That is very good. Being willing to speak up and say, here's what I'm doing, here's what I want to do. How do I get over there? That's where I want to be. A lot of people won't do that. They'll let their career happen to them instead of actually doing something about it. Now, you mentioned Maurice Johnson, and I have a sore spot there because we at one point there was a church league we were both coaching.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
This is and I had some young youth that I was mentoring, and they were doing great, put a lot into them in this coaching, and we had them like we were headed to the championship. We were blowing them out in the first half, and I don't know what he communicated in the second half. But they came back and won a game that they were not supposed to win. And I want to say that publicly. I know he'll see this, that he should not have won that. And I went outside and they were holding up a trophy, and I'll never forget it. Just a sore spot. It has nothing to do with this episode. I appreciate you letting me communicate that. It's a situation. But no, in all seriousness, I want to thank you so much for what you shared. Let's look at this list real quick for everyone. So number 1, the ability to communicate, willingness to do the work. Number 2, having a curious mind. Number 3, analyzing and interpreting data. Number 4, storytelling. Number 5, knowing your skill set. Number 6, having multiple mentors. Number 7, communication skills. And number 8, advocating for yourself. We have come to that time. We're at the end of the show. We're going to end this because you made me a promise earlier.
I did do
We
that.
are going to end this show in the studio. And so all of you that are watching, stay tuned. We're going to close this out. We're heading over to the studio.
All right, let's do it.
I want to welcome everyone to the studio here at our headquarters in Concord, California, and I got Robert to come here on my electric drum set. I then moved over here to the keyboard. We do all kind of stuff in here, and Robert, you agreed we're in here now. Are you ready to make this happen?
I'm ready to make it happen.
All right. This is just a little tune that I made up, and we're just gonna have a little fun. We just have a little fun, Robert. It's not technical. We're just gonna have a little fun.
All right. I'm gonna get the groove and make it feel good.
That's what we do. That's what you do. All right, let's do it. All right, there you have it. I want to thank Robert for just coming in the studio with me and just having a little fun. In all sincerity, this has been an excellent episode talking about what can be done when you really want to achieve high things because you don't care about your age, you don't care about what other people try to put on you as a limitation. You fight through all of that. And to Generation Z out there and all other generations, make sure you never live in limit, live in leverage. Surround yourself with some of those key things that Robert gave us as tools and skill sets and things that we can give ourselves an advantage with so that we can always be the CEO of our life. Here we charge, we expand, and we overcome until we reach the ultimate freedom. Until next time, God bless.